5 Easter eggs. Some would say they defined a generation. Now, that's a very pretentious statement. I've seen that on the back of a lot of video game boxes, but I'm a very pretentious person. T, you're here today helping with my ego and pretentiousness. Do you think you can rein it in a little bit? Because you're out of control.
Gosh, I hope so. You sounded like you were starting an audiobook when you started the video.
5 reasons. 5 days. 5 times Batman. Got a little nuts.
I gotta say, I wouldn't listen to that audiobook.
We're definitely going to get into the Easter eggs today, and the production quality is going to be through the roof, so let's just start it up.
Number 5.
Some would say Arkham Asylum defined a generation.
Whoa, dude.
Actually.
You are pretentious today.
Some would say, I mean, like, so there's been wars, great wars that have been fought, and, those don't matter. It's Arkham Asylum, definitely, that really reworked society completely.
I mean, honestly, we've shaped everything that we know based on Arkham Asylum.
100%. So, okay, this is an Easter egg you pointed out to me because it's the first interview tape from Scarecrow. Now, the thing with these interview tapes is most of them have been retconned out of canon, since then with, like, story updates and stuff like that. But it's still in the game. It's still fascinating because there are some really big references actually to different characters from different Batman continuities in this.
It's still cool to see how this game, and obviously with the rest of the series too, but they started off this game with such a heavy focus on Easter eggs and showing how much of a fan that Rocksteady was of the Batman world and everything that was inside of it. So it was cool when they started off. So in this interview tape, they mentioned a Dr. Murphy and a Dr. Combs.
Patient interview 1. Patient was referred to me after the incident with Dr. Murphy. Note to self, as ever, it is difficult to continue my research under such conditions. Step away from Dr. Combs!
That's a reference to Cillian Murphy, who's the Scarecrow actor from the Nolan-verse movies. And then it's also a reference to Jeffrey Combs, who's the voice actor for the new Batman Adventures Scarecrow. So it just shows once again how deeply they are into this world, and like that's a very subtle reference too. Like you really have to pay attention to catch that one. Like the new Batman Adventures definitely makes sense, but it's cool that they went with the Nolan verse too, because obviously that's not attached, but it's just showing, hey, we're Batman fans of just all kinds.
We
of
know
Batman
what we're
stuff.
talking about.
Yes.
We know how to use Google.
Correct.
Number 4.
Play.
So the next one we have is from Arkham Knight. Now this one is, I think this is one of the least subtle Easter eggs in the series actually, because I noticed it very quickly just walking around.
Yeah.
At the very least for some of these, for Basil Karlo. But there are posters for different movies like Dark Interlude in the Panessa Studios and in the Clock Tower. And you have people like Basil Karlo, Matt Hagen, Preston Payne, and Sandra Fuller all listed as cast and crew on these movies. And it's interesting because these are all different people who would end up being Clayface. Now, when I originally noticed these, I had just noticed, Karlo. That's the one I noticed. And I was like, oh, these are references to Clayface's movies because he was definitely, a big, I don't know, movie star. You know, or like he was involved in this stuff. It was the same with Hagen. I mean, the reason that it connected with me and I guess stuck out to me was because of the animated series.
Yes.
Because of recently rewatching through parts of that.
But the Matt Hagen one was really cool to me because, like you said, I just watched the animated series as well. And it made me think of, I believe I'm thinking of this right, in the animated series, in the episode where he becomes Clayface.
Yeah, it's Hagen who's the movie star. I think I said that wrong.
Oh, no,
You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah, but he, I think Batman yells at him, he's like, Hagen! And it reminded me of Harry from the Spider-Man movies, so it made me laugh.
Or Gandalf.
Or
Gandalf!
Yeah. So it was a really cool reference, and that origin story is pretty sad too in the animated series. And it's one of the better, it's one of the best, I think, like origin stories that you see, and there's a ton of them in the animated series that are really well done. The Clayface one is great, and you actually see him in a couple more episodes after that too. So it was just that Matt Hagen one, I guess, was really cool to me. And once again, it's a really inconspicuous, if you're not paying attention, kind of thing where you just see Basil Karlo. Oh yeah, that's Clayface, but they've got all of them in there, which is really cool.
They did say that Hagen forms and molds into his defining role, which is really interesting too, because that's a direct Clayface reference as well. And that was sort of part of his origin story too, is that he was able to become anybody as an actor. So now he's going to become whoever he wants as Clayface, but it it all falls back on he's stuck as Clayface.
Yes.
You know, it's more of a curse power than a gift
Right.
in a lot of ways.
Number 3.
The next one we have is going back to Arkham Asylum. This one is interesting. I think it's one that you wouldn't really notice unless you knew this date for some reason from listening to audio tapes and stuff like that. But Mad Dog is referenced because the bell in Arkham Mansion actually is inscribed with the date when Amadeus Arkham killed Mad Dog. So that is a big deal in the Arkham universe because that's sort of when Amadeus Arkham became, how would you describe it? Like the keeper of Arkham Asylum, like the real one, where it's like Arkham Asylum kind of got twisted from this point forward into not just trying to help criminals, but punishing them for being insane in a way.
Yeah, it was like the switch, because if you listen to the story, you know,
The Spirit of Arkham.
The Spirit of Arkham, yeah, and you're scanning those things throughout. It starts as like he's actually trying to help, actually, and trying to like, rehabilitate these people and get them back. But then it gets to a point with this Mad Dog where he's like, there's really no hope for these people. Like, you have to, and then he went too far, and that's kind of what pushed him over the edge. So it is, and he really describes it in the Spirit of Arkham tapes too that you listen to. It gets dark quickly.
It's also an interesting parallel to Batman thematically, of like the idea of not trying to help the people specifically, but like what he's doing and not crossing that line. Mm-hmm. And Amadeus Arkham is kind of the example in the Arkham universe of the guy who was really trying and completely crossed that line, never came back.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, what did Amadeus Arkham carve that into the bell, or like how did that get there?
Right.
Because like why would it be there? So it's interesting to like speculate. Why is that there?
Right.
Was that part is that's something that Amadeus Arkham put on there when he was after he had done it? Is like I got to remember this, or I don't know. It's interesting to speculate about it.
Number 2. The next one we have is from Arkham City because upon entering the city for the first time. Now, the city is pretty much a massive internment camp. It's really just a big prison, and it's not regulated completely other than stay away from the walls and be accounted for, like don't disappear. That's pretty much the rules, right? So when you as Bruce Wayne are carted into here by well, I was gonna say by Quincy Sharp, but I'm a complete idiot. By Hugo Strange and the Tiger Guards.
Yes.
Yeah. You can actually see Azrael for the first time. Now you're gonna say, well, yeah, of course you can. You become Batman, you go up, to the courthouse, you come out after the whole, Two-Face encounter at the courthouse. No, you actually see him right away if you're paying attention, which implies a few things. If you look up to your right, you will see him as you're going through the prison line up on a rooftop, which implies a couple of things. One, he's been watching Batman for a while. This is not the beginning of it. Two, he knows who Bruce Wayne is. Otherwise, there would be no reason for him to be there where he is. His mission and his focus in all of City and Night is not the events happening in Gotham, even though he does foreshadow some of them. It's not the villains. It's not to be helpful and stop the villains. It is Bruce Wayne. It's Batman. And focusing on him, and then eventually in Night trying to become a successor. So we know now, like for certain, that he knew who Bruce Wayne was, at least from slightly before Arkham City started and beyond.
Well, that's what it made me wonder is if he was watching Bruce Wayne / Batman for a while there, or if this was like the beginning of his assignment that he got from the Order of Saint Dumas. So like he's now starting. That is exactly where you see him, and maybe he's been tracking him to that point, but. You don't obviously hear about him in Arkham Asylum, which
not at all.
It could be just something that was retconned in that he was watching during that time. But for me, I think it makes sense where like that's the beginning of when he started watching Batman, and then he watched him all throughout the events of City, and then when he gets to Night, that's when he's like, I've been watching, I've got your entire move arsenal down to a T. I'm ready to take over now.
And it's just interesting how either way, whether it's the beginning or it's been going on for a bit, he knows who Batman is. Mm-hmm. That's the whole crux of it. It's like he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yes.
There's no other reason for him to be watching over billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne.
Clearly, yeah, no, he was there for Jack Ryder. I think you're
yeah, definitely, you're right. 100%.
He loves Jack Ryder. Great
Who doesn't?
Yes. Number one. It's number one.
So the final one that we have is actually from Arkham Origins. This is one that I don't think we talk about quite enough. It's a little hard to sometimes because even though WB Montreal did a fantastic job, I think we've talked about it a little bit. Rocksteady was so in tune with the backstories and all these pieces of trivia and stuff, but they actually did a really interesting thing because you can see Penelope Young's apartment at Lacey Towers, and I'm going to try and get footage of this because I went back there in the game at this point, but it's actually sealed off due to the murder that happened earlier in the game.
Yeah, which is really cool. That's a connection to Dr. Penny Young from Asylum, who was the initial creator of Titan, who worked with Joker, and you get more of a backstory of that in Asylum.
Excuse me, she worked with Mr. White?
I messed up. Jack White. Idiot! Yeah. No, it was really, that's really cool that they connected that she's still alive at this point, obviously, because her arc is actually pretty important to the overall what happens in the Arkham trilogy. Well, Arkham 4.
Yeah, her hubris and sort of the deal with the devil type thing with Joker.
Yes.
Indirectly leads to the events of pretty much the entire Arkham universe.
Correct. Yeah. So it's cool that she's in there, and that Arkham Origins would take something from Rocksteady, which obviously they did to a lot of degrees, but it's cool that they intermingled a bit more than I guess I thought originally, because we see some stuff with Knight where they showed some villains from Arkham Origins in like the evidence room that you see some stuff in there.
And you see Firefly and some other stuff like that as well show up. But yeah, you're right. It is probably the most separate game in the franchise. Now, it's one of my favorites, but it is nice to see it actually connect in a meaningful way too.
With a character like this, who's is not like a major. I mean, she is a major character.
She's like such a small character, but so pivotal.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are some of your favorite Easter eggs in the Batman Arkham series? What other top 5s would you like to see from Batman Arkham? We are working on quite a few. We're also expanding our top 5s out to other video game topics as well, just in general, while keeping with this content. So let us know what you want to see. Be sure to check out the links in the description. As always, we've got an Instagram, Patreon, if you'd like to help support the channel in that way. We do appreciate it. There's a really fun Discord with lots of members, a subreddit that hates that I don't shout them out enough. So there you go. It's all down there. We'll see you in the next one. Have a fantastic day. And as always, stay shway.